Hey guys, Jay here. So let's pick things off from where we left. So in this video, what we're going to basically do is set up a prototype level where we are pretty much going to create an environment that we can explore by using geometric shapes like cubes and things like that, right? So this is called prototyping. Another word for this in the game development community or in the industry in general is block mesh environment, so blockouts. So in blockouts, pretty much what we do is we try to create the end result by using cubes and other basic geometric shapes without spending too much time polishing the environment with detailed models. What this allows us to do is create the rest of the game, the mechanics and everything, without spending a lot of time with the polishing or the environment design when we get started with the game, right? So in the first phase, which is this phase that we are in, we're just going to create a blockout level that we can explore. We can set up the mechanics and then get a feel of the end result without actually building the rest of the environment, right? So what we're going to eventually do is we're going to convert this blockout level into a detailed environment full of actual models like trees and the foliage and rocks and all kinds of ruins and things like that, right? So it's going to be exciting later onwards, but let's get started with the blockout in this video. So the first thing we do is we got to sign into your account. So if you got a Unity account already set up, you may have been already logged in by Unity Hub. If you haven't logged in, so basically click on this drop down and click on sign in. If this drop down is not there, there's another place to find this. Go to edit and there's a sign in there. So if you click on this one, it'll open up your browser and you can start signing into your Unity account. When you click on that one, it'll take you to your browser and then it'll ask you if you want to log into through your Unity Hub. And just say yes, and then it'll basically log in. So if you switch back to your Unity, you should have already logged in. Once you're all signed in, go to assetstore.unity.com, which is basically the official asset library for Unity developers. You can find free and paid assets here. Obviously, for this course, we're only going to use free assets simply because it's more accessible for everybody. And since we are learning, it's always good to go with free assets. Don't spend your money on it, but later when you're actually seriously developing your game project, that's up to you if you want to do that, right? So you can go for paid assets, but for this course, only free assets. So simply make sure that you are signed into your same account and then search for Blockout, right? So Blockout is what we're looking for. It's an asset pack that basically gives you everything you need to create a blockout level. So go with this first option, the blockout, not the blockout light, but this is missing a few assets simply made to be quickly, it has less assets compared to the full version. Just go with the full version, and I've linked it down below in this video as well. You can simply get it there as well. And then click on open in Unity. The first time you do it, it might ask you if you want to open in Unity, and then just say yes, and then it'll prompt your package manager in Unity to open it up. It'll take a couple of seconds to load up, depending on the amount of assets you have. But as you can see, it popped up. If for any reason this doesn't pop up here, just go here and search for the name again. So sometimes Unity is a bit clunky where it doesn't prompt you the exact asset in package manager. But if it does, good. Just click on download. So since I've downloaded it before, it's not going to show me the download button. But for you, you'll see a download button there. And once done, you can click on import. It'll take a couple of seconds to load all those assets into your project. And once done, you should be good to go. All right, it's going to prompt you something like this. Just simply say import, and then it'll start importing all of the assets. All right, so once your import completes, you can close your package manager. And if you head over to your project, you should have a new folder here called Blockout. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new scene. So this was our test scene that we worked on last time. So simply go over to your scenes folder, which you should definitely have because Unity creates it for you. Just right click here, go to create, and click on scene. So in Unity, scenes are basically just different levels or different environments. It's up to you how you want to organize them, but it's pretty much a new blank canvas, a new workspace for you. Let's just get started with creating a new scene. I'm going to call this the level 1. I'll call it level 1. And you can create any sort of naming convention here. I usually go with level_1 as sort of the naming convention for this. There you go. And let's double click that. And it'll ask if you haven't saved anything. It'll just say, yeah, just click save. All right, in my blank scene now, I can start creating my blockout level for level 1. And we're going to use our blockout package to do that. So simply go to your new blockout folder here And if you go over here, you'll have a bunch of folders inside of that. We are looking for the word prefabs. So in Unity, or most other game engines, prefabs refer to sort of a template of a certain asset that you can replicate easily. You can simply drag and drop it, and it has a lot of components grouped inside of it. In this case, these prefabs refer to blocks, cubes that you can simply drag in and create a world out of. So if you go inside of this, there's different types of block mesh models here. So you got pipes, you got rocks, foliage, flows, and all kinds of things without actual detail in them. So if you click on rocks, for example, it has these very low poly models that we are going to use to first get a sense of the world that we're creating. And don't worry, we're going to replace all of these low poly models with actual detailed, good-looking models from the asset store later onwards. But let's get started with this, because for any game, it's always good to start with the blockout level, like I mentioned earlier. Right, so just like that, you got a bunch of other things. But before we get into that, I want to show you what we're actually trying to design, right? So you always have to have a few inspiration pictures or videos from other games that you really like or that are similar to the game that you're building to look at and get inspiration from, right? So the environment that we are designing is actually very similar to Uncharted. So I'm going to share the screen right now. So this right here is the kind of environment that we're going to design in level 1. It's going to be sort of a forest environment, a lot of foliage, a lot of rocks and things like that. And then we are going to have more screenshots like this for reference. We're basically going to explore a path like this, how just similar to how Nathan Drake in Uncharted is exploring in Uncharted 1. And we're going to design an environment like this, where there's going to be a bit of a pond. I don't know if I'll add the waterfall. If I feel like it, I will. But this is sort of the environment that we're going for. And then a few more screenshots of that. So I really recommend that you grab a few screenshots from Google just for reference, so you feel inspired to design a similar environment if you can, right? So these are some of the things that I've gathered. These are the environments that we're going to try to replicate. And you're going to have little puzzles, not puzzles, but kind of like jumping mechanics where you can jump from platform to platform and then move forward. So obviously, just like any game, we got to start with simple puzzles, right? They can be stupid simple, like jumping from platform to platform, but it's important to have those in the beginning of the game, because your player is playing your game for the first time. Even if you are pretty familiar with the game, your player is playing for the first time. So they got to get used to the mechanics, even jumping. Things like jumping, moving around, rolling around, those are simple mechanics. But for your player, those are new things that they haven't played in your game before. So, which also means that in the beginning of your chapters, you gotta show them how to do that. So even things like jumping from platform to platform is a great way to teach your gamers on how to use your controls and how to get used to the world. So we're gonna have simple puzzles like this as well in the beginning of the game. That being said, this is the sort of environment that we're gonna create. But in my head, at least, the story for my game is my character is a treasure hunter, and he sort of has this lead on a hidden treasure out in this forest. We'll come up with names and things like that later. But he's basically looking for it. So he has basically taken a plane and he has landed in this forest area and he's looking for that. So very Nathan Drake, Uncharted kind of storyline, but this is only for educational purposes. So we're going to use this to learn Unity. So I don't really care about the storyline too much. But that's the story that we're going to go with for this game. It's up to you, whichever storyline that you want to go with. But for starters, I'm going to create an environment similar to this, because it has to be an open area where a plane can land, a seaplane can land, and for the player to get down. So that's the narrative. We're going to try to tell a story simply through environment, right? It's called environment storytelling in game development. So using the environment, your player is going to look around and sort of get a feel, okay, there's a plane here, I just landed from it, right? And then now I'm going to basically just follow the instructions, objectives, and get through the game. So we're going to design an environment like this first for starters. So let's head over to Unity again. Now let's begin our fun designing process. Get a feel on how to move around like this, like I mentioned earlier in the previous video. So first things first, let's go over to flow. Okay, so we're gonna get started with the flow here. So we have a bunch of assets in here that we can simply drag and drop. So I'm gonna go with a big flow. So 25 by 5 is a good size. I'll definitely go with that. That's the biggest size available, I think. Yep. So we're going to use this. And if you click on any of the assets in the inspector, you can get a preview as well of what the asset looks like. So this looks okay to me. Simply drag and drop it onto your scene. And just like that, we have a sample flow that we can basically use the rect tool to now drag and make it bigger, right? Just like this. Right? And make it as big as you want. I'm just going to go for a size like this, and obviously we can adjust it later as well. So this is a good play area for my player. Okay, and don't worry about the player right now. We're going to add it in the next video, in the player movement chapter. But in this video, we're basically going to cover a simple area for us to explore so that we can start building the mechanics. Right. So this is good enough for me right now. Might make it a bit bigger, right, like this. And then the next thing to do is to have a little bit of a clearance here, right? So we got this clearance over here, and then I'm not going to do the pond in this area, but I'm just going to sort of have a boundary around this area. So there's going to be rocks and things like that, so that there's only one opening, just like how the screenshot shows. There's one opening for the player to go through, and it's very obvious because this is the first time the player is playing the game. So it has to be very clear. You got to guide the player to the right places simply by using the environment, right? So when we have a lot of rocks around sort of covering this area, it's very clear that there's only one opening and you guide the player to that. So there's a lot of strategies that other game developers and other big AAA games are using, and we're going to walk into those as well in the next couple of videos. But this is one of those strategies. Always try to tell and guide your player to the right places simply by using the environment, right? This is one of those ways of doing it. So over here, we're going to build basically an enclosure like this. So let's do that. Let's go to Unity, and I'm going to go over to the prefabs folder again, go to rocks, and we have a bunch of rocks in here. I'm not going to worry too much about how it looks. We just simply have to make it work. So I'm going to go to move tool. So get used to the shortcuts on the keyboard as well, which makes it really easy for you to design. So the shortcut for the move tool is W. If you click on W, you'll get this. Shortcut for rotate is E, R for scale. So WER is a thing that you'll use quite a lot to get by pretty fast. So that's the difference between a new Unity user and a power Unity user. So try to use shortcuts as much as you can. Speeds it up. Right, so W, I'm gonna move this down here. And obviously I want this to be bigger, and I want it to be sort of vertical as well. So what do I use? I use the rotate tool. So to use this axis to rotate it like this. There we go. And I want it to be bigger, right? So I want it to really cover this area as well. So what do I use? Scale tool. So you're gonna use the scale tool like this, drag it up, make it a bit bigger. Don't worry about how it looks. What we care about right now is prototyping. Right, so we're going to replace all of these blank walls with good looking rocks and models later on. All right, so I'm just going to stretch this out. I'm going to use a rect tool for this. So that is T on the keyboard. So with the rect tool, I can stretch from one side of this model and really make it bigger, just like that. All right, this is good enough for me. I'm also going to make it a bit thicker, so I'm going to use the scale tool to sort of make a platform like this to the back. Just like that, we kind of have a enclosure here almost, right? So play is going to start from, I'm thinking over here, and then the opening, the plane is going to be over here. The play is going to start from over here. So it looks like the player got down from it, and then right in front of you, there should be an opening over here, right? So it should be pretty clear where you should go to, because this is the start of the game. You don't want to complicate it. So yeah, I'm going to forward a little bit. Now let's create a little bit of an enclosure. So I'm going to duplicate this rock because it looks good, and I want it on the other side. So there's two ways to do this. The normal way of doing it would be to right-click your rock and click on duplicate, right? But we like power use of Unity as well, so that's going to be Control D for the shortcut. So Control D or duplicate to do this, Control D, and I got a new copy. So where's the copy? It's on top of each other. So if you're ever confused where the new copy is, it's directly on top of each other, so it's not going to show you until you pull it out like this, right? And I'm going to rotate it a bit. move it up, and tweaking here. There we go. And then I'm gonna also do the same thing over here as well. So duplicate, rotate on this axis. We have enclosure. This. Awesome. Right. So we're gonna stretch it out a bit as well. So there we go. So that's a good place to start the game. Basically have like an enclosure over here, which is good. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to create like an opening over here for the player to get through. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this, pull it on this side, just like that, and then just make a space here so you don't want to too tight. Just want the player to get a sense of the world, and then run around a bit, because when they start the game, they haven't used it before, so it's just gonna run around a bit, which is fine. So I'm just gonna make a little bit of an opening over here. So I'm gonna leave some space there, and then I'm gonna duplicate this and then pull it to this side. A little environment like this. So it's up to you. You can obviously design it in a different way, which is fine. But I just want it to be kind of like this. All right, there we go. And I'm also going to cover up this area because there's a little weird gap here, which I don't like. So I'm going to drag this block over here, which looks perfect for that job. I'm going to scale it up a bit using this cube. And then something like this. Now let your creativity flow. Just explore the tools. Feel free to design anything you like, just using the concepts that I mentioned. And then good to go. Boom. We got a nice little enclosure here now. Look at that. It's already starting to like feel like a bit of a game environment now. As you can see, even with the blockout, we can get a sense of what the game is going to look like, right? It's going to be way more exciting than this, but right now, it's a great place to start. So we have an opening here, and we want to stretch out this flow a little bit as well, so that player can explore that area. So simply, in a first-person perspective, start like this. We go over here, and then we go through this, and then we go on to the next part of the world, which we'll develop later. But feel free to just keep designing the world. Design a big enough world where you can explore for like 5 minutes. You can just run around and just do things, right? So design as much as you want. This is good enough for me right now. And that's basically this video. And then, yeah, feel free to keep designing. And then in the next video, what we're going to do is we're going to start building our character so we can run around this exciting world and start exploring and building mechanics. So, yeah, keep working on this, guys. I'll see you in the next video.